Hello, yogis. Hoping that you can see me and hear me okay. So I've got my microphone, everything's set up. I need to come and have a look at the screen, and if you're able to hear and see okay, if you could give me a thumbs up or a comment, I'd be very grateful, so I know I'm not speaking to myself. Ooh. Okay, so Fan, hello! Oh, thank you so much. That's brilliant. I have a fear of technology, and sometimes that manifests in actually making my fears come true. So I'm going to just imagine that everything's going to be fine, and you can all hear me and see me fine. So let's start this practice lying down. You may need a couple of blocks if you've got them, or a couple of chunky books that could be useful, and maybe a blanket for lying down at the end. And if you have tender knees, that can be useful to put under your knees when we're doing the lunge type poses. But otherwise, if you just take a lying down position, and let's start lying down. I'll demonstrate. But rather than having the legs extended, lying with the knees bent, the feet flat on the floor, and the knees knocking together. So this is known as constructive rest pose sometimes. And the idea is that it releases the lower back and just allows you to begin to feel the body supported by the floor. So you may not have been lying down since you got up this morning. Just notice your body as you lie down. See if you can feel the different parts of the back of your body, the back of the shoulder blades, the upper back, the lower back, the buttocks, connected with the floor. Notice the floor. Feel the back of your head, and maybe slightly rock your head from side to side, and just come to a point right in the center. You could always have a blanket or a cushion under your head if that's more comfortable here. Notice the feet, and maybe spread your toes and gently push downwards with the bases of your toes into the floor. And notice your arms and the position you've chosen to take with your arms. You may have the hands on the body, could have a hand on the chest and one on the belly. Both hands could be on the belly, or you could have your arms by your sides. But make a conscious decision which position you want to take with your hands and arms. Generally, a more upward palms is more of an open, receiving gesture, and downwards is more grounding. And it's also said that if you have one hand on your heart, usually the left, and the right on your belly, that's a way of self-soothing, a kind of yogic cuddle. So you could choose any of those positions. Now you've taken your position, you may choose to close your eyes if that feels good for you. And we start the practice connecting with the body a little bit more and noticing the mind, and then also using the breath. So now noticing your thoughts, perhaps. Just bring your awareness to the busyness or not of the thoughts that are constantly coming in and out of our minds. And just reminding ourselves that these thoughts are always past or future based on some level. So they're not able to actually be completely present unlike the body and the breath. So just allowing the thoughts to come in and release out, let them go as quickly as they arrive. And a way to help doing this is by bringing your awareness to the breath. So we'll actually start doing a pacifying breath. So this sort of breath tricks the body into elongating the out-breath, which then calms down the nervous system. But before we do that, just noticing your natural rhythm of breath right now. Sometimes it's easiest to start at the sensation of the breath at the nostrils and just noticing the temperature of the air as it comes in, as it leaves. And then perhaps following your natural breath as the breath comes into the back of the mouth, down into your trachea and through into the trunk, into the torso. Noticing which part of your torso seems to be moving the most, whether it's the chest, whether it's the belly. Are you caught more in a fight or flight type rhythm of breath, higher up in the body? Or is your body deeper and slower? Notice whether your breath feels as though there's a regularity to the length of the in-breath and the out-breath. So do they feel as though they're about the same length as you breathe in compared to as you breathe out? Maybe notice whether you retain your breath. So many of us apparently don't even realize that we're actually holding our breath a lot of the time. And now let's begin this pacifying breath that I spoke of before, tricking the body into lengthening the exhalation. So we'll be tricking the body by dividing the exhalation into 3 parts. But first of all, take a deep breath in, expand your belly, and a long breath out through your mouth. Let's do that one more time. You can make a noise, if you like, with the out breath, more like a sighing noise. Inhale in. Or even a completely releasing. And then let the breath settle. And some of you will have done the 3-part breath with me, where we inhale into 3 parts, holding the breath on the inhalation, but this is the opposite. We're 3 parts on the exhalation. So now begin inhaling, holding, and exhaling completely. And then take a normal breath in, and as you exhale into 3 equal parts, pause very briefly at the end of each of the exhaling parts. So it will go like this. You'll breathe in, and then you'll breathe out. Keep the out breath and pause. Breathe out a second third, pause, and a final third. Pausing, and then naturally inhale fully. So I'll say it again. You're inhaling, and then the exhale into thirds. So you exhale a third of the breath and pause. Continue with the second third of the exhale, pausing, and then the final part of the exhale, pausing, and then inhaling again fully. And the natural rhythm of the breath will then allow the exhalations going out in thirds will then allow the in-breath to naturally be very full. So you're taking a normal breath in, and you're exhaling a third of breath and pausing, continuing a second third of the breath and pausing, and continuing to the final part of the out breath and pausing before the natural arising of the in-breath. So doing that for a few rounds. And as you're doing it, I'll just talk a bit about what you're doing. So the pauses should be like a suspended moment rather than a holding of the breath. So as you're pausing each time, it's almost like a moment of rather than an actual contraction or holding of the breath. So a gentle suspension on each of the three pauses. And then you're trying to allow the in-breath to arise in a relaxed way. So there's no sense of grabbing with the inhalation. You're trying to feel as though the breath becomes very smooth as you do this. And it takes a bit of practice. And you could use visualization. So you could maybe picture the breath as a waterfall flowing down. And as it flows down, it collects in a pool during the pause before the next part of the waterfall flows down, pauses at the pool, and finally releases down the final pool before the inhalation comes in. So seeing if you can keep your awareness on this breath technique, on the pacifying breath, for about 2 more rounds. And then allowing your breath just to become natural and long and smooth. And maybe noticing how the fluctuations of the mind have calmed down a little bit as you've brought your awareness to your breathing. Remembering as well how the mind is connected with the breath and the breath with the mind and the thoughts. So keeping that sensation of smooth breathing, bringing the knees into your chest now. And as you carry on the breathing, you can exhale and squeeze your knees in. Keep the back of your neck long. And you can inhale and let the knees rise up. You can use your hands to draw the knees in a bit more strongly with the out breath and let them rise with the in breath. A couple more times. Notice your hips as you do this. Your hip creases folding, the legs folding over the hip creases. And then we'll take the knees wide, so holding either hand on either knee, making big, wide circles. Again, keep your breath smooth. And if you can, when the knees come together and draw in, you breathe out. And as you take the knees wide away from each other, you breathe in. Again, keep the neck long, so that means slightly probably pulling the chin and tucking it under. And also bring awareness to the leg bones rotating around in your hip joints. Reverse the direction of the knees now. So beginning to work into our hips. Keeping the breath smooth. Bringing your awareness back when it wanders off to the breath and to the movements of the body. Right in this present moment. And then once the knees come together again, place your feet flat on the floor. With the left foot flat on the floor, extend your right leg. Flex the toes. If you can, you have the legs straight. You may have a bit of a bend in the knee. Let's interlink the hands behind the back of the leg. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. See if you can flex your toes more strongly and feel the back of your leg and push upwards with that foot and push down for stability with the left foot as well, and then maybe draw that leg towards your body. You may take the hands further up the back of the leg if that's available to you, but keep
pushing upwards with the foot, with the bases of the toes, especially the ball of the big toe. And also push the front thigh away from you. Really feel the sensation in the back of your leg. Perhaps imagine you're breathing in and out there. Allow the leg to come up tall now. Use both of your hands to externally rotate this upper thigh and then cross the ankle over that knee. Flex the foot. So with the ankle crossed over the knee, both of the feet engaged, you can either stay here or you can raise that left thigh. Maybe have the shin parallel to the floor. Take the right hand through the hole in the legs and clasp both of the hands, if you can reach, behind the back of that left thigh. If you can't reach, you could use a tie or a strap to make your hands and arms longer. You can maybe push into this right thigh with your right elbow. And then keeping that position, feeling your hip creases again, as you exhale, see if you can pull your left thigh in towards the body, and at the same time, push the right ankle into that thigh. And you should feel most of the sensation in the outside of your hip on this right side. So notice that and possibly imagine you're breathing directly into that sensation. As you breathe in, you expand into the sensation with the breath, and with the breath comes your awareness. And as you breathe out, you release and let go some of the tension. Coming back to the floor with the left foot, take the right foot to the floor and now extend the left foot. So same this side, interlink the hands behind the leg, flex the foot. So notice the back of the leg when you flex the foot. Notice how the feeling completely changes. And then with the awareness on the back of the leg, push up higher. See if you can push the inner edge of your foot up higher and notice where the sensation changes. Lift your kneecap, even if the knee is bent, feel as though the kneecap is lifting and you're feeling this top of above the knee push away from you. Drawing the leg closer towards the body, maybe taking the hands further up the leg. You can push down into that right foot for leverage. Remember, don't let the chin tip up. Draw the face back into the skull. Breathe in and out of the back of that leg. Noticing how it feels and using the out breath to maybe release tension a little bit. And then coming to raise the leg up tall. Take the hands out onto this left thigh. Externally rotate the thigh and cross that ankle over the knee. Flex both your feet and then raise this right leg, maybe right shin parallel with the floor. Take the left hand through the hole in the legs, right hand behind the thigh. Interlink the hands. Draw the chin in. Inhale, push your hip creases away from you. Exhale, pull the thigh towards the body and push this foot into that thigh. You can maybe use your left elbow to push the left thigh out a bit as well. Again, go back to how your body feels, and rather just coming into the position, into the shape, really feel into the shape and notice the sensation now, if you haven't already, in the left side of your hip. Releasing tension perhaps with the out breath. You could even slightly wriggle your hips, just releasing a bit. Take the right foot down to the floor, take the left foot down to the floor, and let's extend the legs and the arms if you have space, and take a full body stretch. Flex your feet, interlink your hands, push the heels of the hands away from you, tuck under your chin a little bit, push the heels of your feet away from you, and see if you can feel the side body even begin to lengthen. And then from that, let's come into a side bend on the floor. So keep the bum on the floor and the shoulders if you can, and just walk your feet over maybe a little bit, maybe further to the right, and then take the arms over to the right. So you come into a curved shape. Keep the left shoulder blade drawing down towards the floor, and push further away with your left heel and the left heel of the hand. And then see if you can really breathe into the left side of the body. Inhaling, reaching further with the foot and the hand, and exhaling, softening a little bit. Walking the feet back to the center, the arms come up tall, and then take the feet over to your left. So you don't want to roll the body over, you want to try to keep the body flat on the floor. So it doesn't matter how far you come. The intention is to stretch the side of the body on the right. So push your right heel further away. Draw the right shoulder blade down towards the floor. Open your right armpit and push the right heel of the hand away. And maybe see if you can imagine you're pushing your right hip outwards a bit. Really breathe down deep, deep, deep into that right side of the body. And a long releasing breath out. So we're just preparing the body for movement now. Coming back to the center. Draw your knees into the chest. Bring the hands around the knees. Cross your feet. We'll rock up to a seated position. And from the seated position, coming now onto hands and knees. So beginning with the hands, spread your fingers. So you want to, I'll just show you, you're on your hands on the floor, but spread your fingers so that the little finger and the thumb are as far away from each other as they can be. See if you can create the same amount of space between each of the fingers as make the space about equal. And then feel as though you're pushing downwards into each of the bases of your fingers, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, and thumbs. So the wrist creases face forwards, lined up with the top of your mat. And your elbow creases face each other. And the shoulders spread across your back. So you want to really spread the shoulders across the back. Coming now to notice the hips and whether they're directly over your knees. And your knees are hip width apart. So this is the starting position for cat-cow, and then pushing up into downward facing dog. So in cat-cow, we're releasing the spine. Inhale, drop your belly, keep the shoulder blades the shoulders away from the ears, and reach your sternum and your forwards and up, and your sit bones up as you drop the belly. And as you exhale, you curve your spine up, tuck under your chin and your tailbone, and draw your lower belly back and up as well as the pelvic floor. So a few rounds like this, using your breath. In breath, drop the belly as you come into cow, like a cow releasing its spine down. And exhale, keep the rooting down equally into your hands as you curve your spine up like a cat reaching towards the ceiling as it stretches. So one more round like this. Focus on the inhalation dropping you down and the exhalation curving you up. And then once you've curved up into cat, we're also going to bring the bum back towards your heels into child's pose with the knees wide though. Bring your forearms to the floor so that your forearms are parallel and the fingers stay spread. See if now you can inhale as you reach forwards with the chest coming to your hands if possible. Keep the elbows in and the shoulders back, and then straighten your arms back again to the position that we started with. Exhaling, curve the back and come back. So the exhale, you coming back. You bring the forearms to the floor. Keep them parallel, shoulders back. Keep squeezing the elbows towards each other so they don't flare out as you bring the chest forwards. And then once the chest comes to the hands, straighten the arms. Exhale, curve up and come back. Inhale, forearms down, swoop forwards and straighten the arms. Exhale, curve up. Reach back with your sit bones towards your heels, opening the armpits. Inhale, smoothly swoop forwards. Hard bit is to keep the elbows in. Exhaling, curve up. Last time. Spread your fingers.
Keep the hands rooting down equally. Keep squeezing the elbows towards each other as you come forwards and back onto your hands and knees. And from hands and knees, we'll push up to downward facing dog, which we've been practicing, with the knees bent though. So tuck under your toes and feel the bases of your toes. In fact, you can spread the little toes apart from the other toes if they tend to squeeze in. Notice your fingers, spread them. Push into the bases of the index fingers and the thumbs particularly, but all of the fingers, and then begin to raise your knees and take the sit bones back. So we're not worrying about straightening the legs right now. If you have a sore lower back or tight hamstrings, having your knees bent helps. And also you could take your feet a bit wider than hip width if that feels better. But first of all, really feeling the armpits open and the shoulder blades spread across your back. Keep the hands so that the fingers are very spread. And from here, keeping on the bases of your toes, see if you can then straighten your legs. Notice what happens with the shoulders. And then keeping on the bases of the toes with straight legs, see if you can take your heels down towards the mat. They might not come down very far, it doesn't matter. Keep the kneecaps lifting. Come onto the bases of your toes again. Bend your knees. Come all the way down to the floor, onto hands and knees. Take the tops of your feet to the floor and exhale back into child's pose, but with the arms forwards. Keep the fingers spread. Inhale, come back onto your hands and knees. We'll do it again. Tuck under your toes. Push down into the floor with the mat. And then lift your sit bones up and reach them back. You're trying to have one long line all the way up the arms through to the sit bones, but with the natural curves of the back. And then straighten your legs, but keep on the bases of your toes. And see if you can then take your heels down. Feel the backs of the legs react. Inhale back onto the bases of the toes. Exhale, drop your knees down to the floor, coming to hands and knees. Take the tops of your feet to the floor and exhale into child's pose. We'll do it one more time. Spread your fingers, stretch your arms, come up onto your hands and knees. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Tuck under your toes, reach your sit bones back and then up and back again with bent knees. Lengthen your spine. Long spine, then straighten your legs, keeping on the bases of your toes, and then see if you can exhale the heels down. Inhale back onto the bases of the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, and come all the way back down to hands and knees. Take the tops of your feet to the floor, and exhale back into child's pose, bringing the arms by your sides, dropping your head. And now in this position of child's pose, you let your head maybe higher up. You can always bring props to rest your head on, if that's the case. If the head finds it hard to reach, you take the knees wider. If your face is quite squished to the floor, you bring the knees closer together. But wherever you are, let your backs reach more to your heels. Even if they're on your heels, let them easily. Back to the back of your body, right down, which come down to the rib cage, right to the bottom of the rib cage at the back of your body. Imagine you're filling those lungs up with your in-breath, downwards, sideways, forwards then, and as you exhale, draw your lower belly back and up, pull up your pelvic floor and release, release, release. Bring your arms forwards from where you are now, spread your fingers, come up onto your hands and knees again, take your knees hip width apart, tuck under the toes, bend the knees as you come back and up into downward facing dog. And from here we'll walk the feet into the hands.
and come to ragdoll. So ragdoll, just a relaxed forward fold. You can hold on to your elbows and keep your knees quite soft and just sway. And it's quite nice for releasing the lower back. Maybe rock side to side. And also notice your neck and shake your head and nod your head. Make sure you're not holding tension in your neck. So rolling up is a bit of a technique as well. To roll up most effectively, you want to keep the engagement with your feet. So push into your feet, the bases of your big toes, and keep the arches energized. Relax the arms, the head. Keep the knees soft. And then as you push into your feet, begin to feel the body roll up until the body becomes upright. And finally, the head comes to rest right on top of your spine. So let's begin now with the half Surya Namaskar. But first of all, we'll focus on Tadasana with the feet together. So Tadasana means mountain pose, and that's the standing pose that all of the other standing poses really initiate from. So thinking about the feet, you can either choose actually feet together or hip width apart. If your feet are hip width apart, look down and check that they're actually parallel. So generally parallel means the second crease is lined up with each other. If they're together, the bases of the big toes touch and the heels are a little bit apart. And then just close your eyes, relax your shoulders, relax your arms and your hands. And with your eyes closed, bring your awareness to the soles of your feet and just notice how the soles of the feet are kind of changing the connectivity, the different parts of the feet that connect with the floor. So there's always some kind of movement going on even within this fairly still pose. And then open the eyes and fix your drishti. So your drishti is your gaze, where the eyes are gazing. And it's really important in yoga where our eyes look, depending on which pose we're in. So looking at one still point, either ahead of you or maybe straight ahead of you, at sort of horizon level probably is the best. Or you could choose slightly ahead of you on the floor. But choose your still point and then soften your gaze. So rather than looking strongly, you feel as though you're looking at that point from the backs of your eyes. Bring your awareness back to your feet, spread your toes, and push downwards with the bases of your toes. It's quite hard to do that. And also you can feel as though you're pushing down with the bases of the toes and also the kind of toe bases themselves. So the ball of the foot, the big base of the big toe, base of the little toe, and also the inner and outer heel. See if you can root down equally and notice how your arches of your feet then maybe begin to engage. That lift in the arches is super important. Everything that's happening with our feet then impacts all the way up through the ankles, the lower legs, the knees, all the way through to the hips and even the lower back. So we really want to get a strong rooting down and engagement with our feet in all yoga poses where the feet are connected with the floor like this. Lifting your kneecaps, engaging the thighs, and then trying to feel as though your spine is tall, so your tailbone reaches or drops downwards. And there's a tendency for some people to tuck their bums under, which then obviously impacts the spine in that way, or stick their bums out. But we're trying to feel the natural curves of the spine, lengthening the tailbone and reaching up with the base of the skull. Keep the chin very slightly tucked under. Let's just take a deep round of breath here, in and out through the mouth. And we'll move into Surya Namaskar, which we've been doing, but we'll hold each pose for a few rounds of breath. So push into your feet. Inhale your arms wide if you have space and reach up. Look up, palms touch. So we'll stay here in Urdhva Hastasana. Keep the feet rooting down.
Keep the sternum lifted. Keep the armpits open. Keep the back of the neck long, even though you're looking up. So you kind of lift the sternum and slightly tuck under your chin, even though you're looking up. Push down into your feet. Lift or engage your kneecaps, your thighs. One more breath in as you push down and reach up. And then with an out breath, we'll flow, folding over the hip creases, taking the arms wide. Keep your back flat. And as the back comes down, as soon as it curves, that's your cue to bend your knees or soften the knees as you come all the way down to Uttanasana, it's called in Sanskrit, which is a full forward fold. Drop your head. You can bring your hands to the backs of the legs. And you still want the same pushing down into your feet as you had in Tadasana, the standing mountain pose we just did. So push into your feet and feel the weight slightly rock forwards. See if you can connect your front thighs with your front body. And then to fold or to really release the backs of the legs further, lift the middle of the sit bones up towards, the middle of the backs of your thighs up towards your sit bones. Keep these shoulders away from your ears. See if you can take a full round of breath here, maybe breathing into the back of your body and a long breath out. With the next in-breath, we'll come up to a half fold, Ardha Uttanasana, it's called in yoga. So you want your legs straight and your back flat. So you can bring your hands to any part of the front of the legs that keeps the legs straight and the back flat, or some people may even have fingertips to the floor or even flat hands. But keep the feet rooting down as they were. Keep the arches engaged. Keep the shoulders away from your ears. Again, slightly rock forwards onto the balls of your feet and lift your kneecaps to engage your thighs. Take one more round of breath here, noticing how you feel, pushing down for stability into the floor and reaching forwards with your sternum to try and lengthen your spine. On the next out breath you have, see if you can bend your knees and bring the hands to the floor. And we're going to step back into downward facing dog. So one foot back, other foot back. And then keeping the knees as bent or straight as feels right for you and beginning to pedal out your knees. Remember the spreading of your fingers. So your hands are like your feet were here. You need to really keep the bases of the fingers pushing downwards. We're going to inhale and come onto hands and knees. And then on hands and knees, we'll come into plank pose. So first of all, checking the fingers are spread, taking the left foot back, heel pushes back, engage the thighs. Take the right heel and push it back, tucking under your toes. So you either stay here in plank, top of a push-up, or you can drop your knees if that's too strong. If the knees are lifted, push your heels back. Make sure your elbow creases face each other and the shoulder blades spread across the back. The shoulders are away from your ears. Your thighs are very engaged. And see if you can take 2 more rounds of breath wherever you are. Big breath in and a long breath out through the nose or the mouth. Keep the shoulder blades very, very broad. To lower down, if you haven't dropped your knees already, drop your knees to the floor. Take the top of your feet to the floor. Keep the elbows drawing in and lower your body all the way down to the floor. From here, slide your hands back a bit and keep your elbows in. So bring the forehead to the floor. Top of your feet are to the floor. Spreading your fingers. Elbows are in. Shoulders away from your ears. And then reach forwards with your sternum as you try to lengthen the spine as you come up. Keep the elbows in and the shoulder blades draw away from the ears, or the shoulders draw down. Inhale, push forwards and up. You may come up just a little bit, you may come up quite high. We're going to undulate here. Exhaling, see if you can smoothly lower down
and bring the head to the floor. The top of your feet stay pushing downwards. Inhale, push forwards with the sternum, keep the elbows in and feel as though the hands are sucking backwards as you push forwards with the sternum, and then slowly lower down. We'll take one more round, really focusing on spreading your fingers, keeping your elbows in and inhaling. Puff out the chest forwards to lift up. So back bend is a heart opener. Exhale to lower down. Make a cushion for your head with your hands and rock your hips from side to side. So we'll bring the forearms now and come into Sphinx pose, which is a nice yin pose, really, often used as a yin pose. Take your feet a bit wider. It's nice for your lower back. And have your elbow creases beneath your shoulders, unless that feels too strong on the lower back, and then you can take them further away from you. Again, shoulders away from your ears. Reach forwards with your front body. Open the heart space. Maybe close your eyes. Keep the breath smooth. So notice your mind. Notice the thoughts that come into the mind and just dissolve them into the out breath, maybe. If you want to stay here, we'll stay here for another few rounds of breath. You can stay, or you can come into a position called seal by taking the hands a bit wider and beginning to straighten the arms. They may stay bent at the elbows, or you could begin to completely straighten the arms. The further back your hands are, obviously, the much stronger the bend in the lower back. So keep your awareness on your lower back and see if you can push forwards with your belly. Keep the shoulders away from your ears and draw the shoulder blades down the back. So remember, back bend, heart opener. Puff out your heart space. Notice your lower back. And then there's always the trick in this position. If your lower back feels like it's a bit too pinched, slightly contract your buttocks to release some of that sensation. Use your next out breath to lower you down. And make a cushion for your head with your hands. Bring your feet a bit closer together. Rock your hips from side to side. Just releasing the lower back. And then we'll bring the hands either side of the chest. Spread the fingers, elbows in, shoulders back. Push up onto your hands and knees. From here, we'll come to Anahatasana. So we just worked more on the lower back. This is more on the upper back, the shoulders, armpits. So keep your hips over your knees. Walk your hands forwards. And with the hands walking forwards, keep the tops of the feet pushing downwards as you sink your chest. So you keep the armpits open, and the chest sinks down with your out breath. So you could always have something to rest your head on, if that feels better. You keep the armpits open, shoulder blades spread. You drop the chest with your out breath. Keep the breath long, don't hold the breath. Keep the top of the feet pushing down and the tops of the shins pushing down. To come back, slide one hand under your shoulder, push up with that arm, slide the other hand. And then we'll just take some free movements, rolling the shoulders and the hips around. From here, pushing back up to downward facing dog. Tuck under your toes, spread the fingers, shoulders away from your ears, sit bones back, up and back. Keep the length in your spine, lift your kneecaps. Look at the space between your hands. That's where you're going to end up with your feet. So you can either walk your feet or you can come onto the bases of your toes, make your knees really bendy, look at that space and see if you can hop into that space. Inhaling, you come to your half fold, hands anywhere on the legs or the floor. Exhaling, you fold fully. And inhale, you push into your feet. Keep your body lined up with your legs as much as you can as you raise the body, arms wide, reach up, palms touch, look up, exhale down. So now we'll try one movement, one breath, really focusing on the smoothness and the rhythm of your breath. Inhale, arms wide. Look up as palms touch. Push down into your feet as you exhale, arms wide, and fold over your hip creases into a full fold. Hands behind the backs of the legs. Inhale, look up, come to a straight-legged, flat back, half fold. Exhale, bend your knees and bring your hands down. Inhale, step the feet back into downward facing dog. Exhale, drop your knees to the floor, top of the feet to the floor, and lower the whole body down. Inhale, push forwards and up into Cobra, Bhujangasana. And then ideally, one long out breath lowers your body down, tucks your toes under, and takes your bum back and into downward facing dog again. But that takes some practice. And then we stay in downward facing dog for a few rounds of breath. Remember the long spine. So you want to avoid having the weight in the bases of your hands. You want to have the weight in the bases of your fingers and feel as though the arches of your hands are lifting like the arches of your feet lift in Tadasana. So you kind of push down into the bases of the fingers. The tips of the fingers even can grip a little. Look at the space between your hands and walk or hop if you choose to a half fold. Out breath, fold fully. Bend your knees if you need to. In breath, flat back, arms wide, all the way up, reaching up, looking up to the palms as they touch, and exhaling the hands down. Coming back to Tadasana, or they call it Samastitihi, equal standing. We'll do that again. Use your breath. So let's just take a couple of rounds of breath in Tadasana. Inhaling, exhale through the nose. So in yoga, generally, we always breathe in and out through the nose. But sometimes we just release through the mouth as well. Next, in breath, pushed into your feet. Lift your kneecaps, arms wide, palms touch. Out breath, flat back, folding. When the back curves, bends the knees, head drops, hands to the backs of the legs. In breath, look up and lengthen with a flat back. Out breath, bend your knees, bring your hands to the floor. In breath, we're stepping back into downward facing dog. And out breath, dropping down onto the knees. Keep the elbows in, tops of the feet to the floor, and lowering the body down to the floor. In breath, push forwards and up, elbows in. Out breath, lower your body, tuck under your toes, keep the elbows in, bum comes back and up into downward facing dog. And then again, nod your head, shake your head, maybe lick your lips, flubber your lips, release the face as well. Look at this space between your hands, walk or step or hop into that space. As you inhale, you lift and lengthen to a half fold. As you exhale, you fold fully. And as you inhale, you push into your feet. Open the arms wide if you have space, or forwards if you don't. Reach up, palms touch. Exhaling the hands down. So this time we'll do the same, but with using plank. Inhale the arms wide. Exhale, fold forwards. Keep the rhythm of your breath. Inhale, look up with a flat back. Exhale, bring your hands down. Inhale, step one foot back, drop it down. Push into the hands, shoulders beneath, over your elbows, over your wrists. And then step the other foot back, coming to plank. Hold high plank. And then drop your knees, tops of the feet to the floor. Out breath,
Elbows stay drawn in and shoulders down as you lower. In breath, reach forwards with your front body. Keep those elbows in, not flaring out. One long, slow out breath, lowering your body down, tucking under your toes, and taking your bum back and up and back. So don't worry about whether you lose that breath at the final out breath, because when you get to downward facing dog, there's always a few rounds of breath to come back to the rhythm of the breath. So big breath in and out. Walking your feet or hopping back into between the hands as you come to a half fold with an in-breath. An out-breath folds you fully. An in-breath raises you up, arms wide, reach up, palms touch, exhale down. Let's stand again in Tadasana. So Tadasana, root down with your feet. Choose whether your feet are hip width or together. Palms relaxed. Lift the sternum. Long, tall spine. Feel the connection of the floor with your feet. And we'll come from Tadasana into tree pose. In Sanskrit they call it Vrikshasana. So we'll be standing on one leg, and we'll start with the left leg. Usually it's the right, but I don't know why. Choose the left. So you can have a prop to bring this right foot on. That would be the first option, toes to the heel, or you could bring the foot to the beneath the knee, or you could try to raise the foot and push it into the top of your thigh towards the groin, and then you bring the palms together. So the same here as in Tadasana with that standing foot. Really grip the floor with your toes and the big toe base, and feel the arches of the foot engage, the arches of the foot engage. Push the thigh or the leg into the foot and the foot back into the leg very strongly to stop any sliding. And pull your left standing hip inwards. Lift your sternum. Engage your lower belly and your pelvic floor, and lift the crown of the head gently. Maybe you could begin to take the arms up. You can have the hands apart or the hands together is more challenging. Keep your drishti, remember the drishti being your gaze, on one still point. When your eyes are still, the rest of the body stays more still. If you've raised the hands, bring them back together, and then take them down the center of the body. Bring the raised knee forwards, lift it, and then step it down. And then have a little shake of the hands and the arms and the legs, and we'll come to the other side. So you've done the first side, you know what's coming. Spread the toes of the right foot. Really feel that foot engage with the floor. Choose the same position that you did on the first side. Really, really strong standing leg. Lift the kneecap of that standing leg so you engage the thigh. Remember, you're trying to pull the standing leg's right thigh in. Keep the foot rooting down into the bases of the toes, the big toe. The arch is lifted. Engage your core. It's very hard to engage your core when you're talking, so I find balancing tricky when I'm chatting. To come down, bring the palms together. Exhale the hands down. Bring the knee forwards and exhale the foot down. Wherever you got to, fantastic. Everything takes practice, and balancing really depends on the day. So we'll come down into what's called Malasana now. It's a squatting pose. So take your feet sort of sticking outwards and a bit wide, and drop your bum down. And bring your knees wide and your elbows inside your knees and your palms together. So that may be where you get to. You could have your heels off the floor, which is harder to balance. You can always bring blocks or books underneath your heels to help you balance, if that's the case for you. Your hips could also be quite high off the floor. That's fine. You're feeling that you're sinking your hip creases downwards though. And you keep the lift in your sternum. You draw your shoulders down the back and try to widen the knees a bit further away from you. So really brilliant for the pelvic floor. Trying to feel length in your spine. So even if you feel like you're quite hunched forwards, feel the pushing of the chest forwards to lift it up. See if you can take 2 more rounds of breath here. Maybe close your eyes. To come down to the floor, take the fingers behind you. You can reach, bring your bum down. And let's roll onto the back and draw the knees into the chest. Rock your hips from side to side. And we'll just keep the knees, actually take the feet flat to the floor, keep the knees bent, and just drop the knees over to the right, like windscreen wipers, and look to your left. And then lift the knees up, drop them over to the left, look to your right. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, drop. Inhale, up. Exhale, drop over. Inhale, up. Draw the knees into the chest, extend the legs, extend the arms, and rotate your feet and your hands. Notice your wrists and your ankles, reversing the directions. Waggle the hands and the legs. Bring your feet to the floor, heels towards your bum. We'll just come up into one bridge pose. So bring the arms like soldier arms, fingers point upwards, feet hip width apart. Inhale, raise your hips. But more than the lift of the hips, you want the length. Remember, the front body opens with a back bend. So push the knees away from you, the fronts of the knees away from you. Lift your sternum towards your chin. Push down into your upper arms. You could even extend the arms on the floor now, or even interlink your hands under the back and wriggle onto the tops of your arms and shoulders. Back of the neck is long. Root down equally into your feet, so especially the bases of your big toes, which will probably come up. And then to come out of bridge pose, unwriggle the arms if they're there. Keep your hips lifted. Bring the arms up over your head and roll your body, upper body, mid body, lower body. Arms float down. Coming into extending your legs for Shavasana. So we only have a couple of minutes for Shavasana, I'm afraid, but then there is the meditation class if you had time or wanted time or inclination to do that next. But it's really important at the end to give yourself time to relax your body. So feel the different parts of the back of the body connected with the floor. Big breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Relax the lips and teeth, tongue inside the mouth. Soften the jaw, eyelids heavy, backs of the eyes relax. Whole of your face relaxes. The skull relaxes, and inside the skull the brain is very soft. And then feeling the wave of relaxation from the head come down through into the throat and the back of the neck, into the shoulders, through the arms, all the way down to the fingertips, through the torso, the upper back, the chest, heart space, solar plexus, mid-back, lower back, belly, hips, pelvis, buttocks, thighs, fronts and backs, knees, lower legs, ankles, feet and toes. And then you can either stay there in Shavasana, or you can join us for the next half an hour meditation session. So I'll turn the video off now. Namaste. I'll turn it off and then back on